Episode H, the Kinderhook Plates. The Kinderhook Plates were a set of 6 small, bell-shaped brass plates that were discovered in 1843 near Kinderhook, Illinois. The plates appeared to be covered in strange engravings and were initially believed to be ancient artifacts. Their discovery excited members of the Latter-day Saint community because it was hoped that they might provide further evidence supporting the authenticity of the Book of Mormon and the Book of Abraham. Joseph was shown the plates and reportedly made preliminary translations, suggesting they contained the history of an ancient person. I insert facsimiles of the 6 brass plates found near Kinderhook. I have translated a portion of them and find they contain the history of the person with whom they were found. He was a descendant of Ham through the loins of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and that he received his kingdom from the ruler of heaven and earth. Joseph Smith, Jr., History of the Church, Volume 5, Chapter 19, page 372. Joseph Smith intended to translate the Kinderhook Plates in their entirety. Apostles John Taylor and Wilford Woodruff, editors of the Nauvoo Neighbor, confidently asserted in a June 1843 article that the contents of the plates, together with a facsimile of the same, will be published in the Times and Seasons as soon as the translation is complete. However, the plates were later revealed to be a hoax. In 1879, one of the original finders of the plates, Wilbur Fugate, admitted that he and 2 others, Robert Wiley and Bridge Whitten, had created the plates as a prank to test Joseph Smith's abilities. Church historian Richard L. Bushman stated in his book, "Church historians continued to insist on the authenticity of the Kinderhook plates until 1980, when an examination conducted by the Chicago Historical Society, possessor of one plate, proved it was a 19th century creation." Rough Stone Rolling, page 490. Not only did Joseph Smith fail to discern the fraud, but he also compounded it by translating the fake Kinderhook plates. This glaring misstep undermines the credibility of his supposed gift of translation. Even the LDS Church now acknowledges the plates as a hoax, raising serious questions about Smith's authenticity and the validity of his other translations. What does this incident tell us about the reliability of his prophetic abilities? It casts a long shadow of doubt, suggesting that Smith's claim to divine insight was, at best, flawed, and at worst, entirely fabricated. Brian M. Hoglid of BYU's Religious Studies Center writes in an article titled, "Did Joseph Smith translate the Kinderhook Plates?" Critics argue that the Kinderhook Plates represent a case study of Joseph Smith's translation ability. They accept that the plates were a forgery, but they strongly contend that Joseph Smith tried to translate them. Critics maintain this position based on documentary evidence from the period. Latter-day Saint researchers have also concurred that the plates were a forgery, but have argued against the idea that Joseph Smith actually translated any of them. So the question remains as to whether the prophet actually tried to translate the Kinderhook Plates or not. That question is the subject of this investigation. Hoglid proceeds to state, so if Joseph did translate a portion of the plates, why did he not continue? The key here is to explore whether Joseph viewed this translation endeavor as a revelatory effort to bring forth more sacred scripture. We know how he treated scriptural translations. After the initial translation or revelation of the Book of Mormon, the Book of Moses, the Book of Abraham, and the Doctrine and Covenants, the texts all went through 3 important phases: transcription, publication, and distribution. If Joseph judged the Kinderhook plates as being equivalent, he would have steered the text through the same process. However, no transcription or publication of the Kinderhook translation exists. All that is available is a paraphrase of what Joseph Smith said the plates contained, a history of a descendant of Ham. This does not qualify as a transcription of a translation. In the official history of the Church, there is no mention of a scribe being hired to record the translation, and no translation session is noted. The Church claims that Joseph Smith discerned the Kinderhook plates to be a fraud and subsequently lost interest in them. But this is simply not true. Smith himself stated that he had translated part of the plates already. He genuinely believed in their authenticity and planned to translate them fully. Smith was in no rush. He already had the Book of Mormon, the Book of Abraham, and the Book of Moses as supposed divine translations. Another translation could wait, as he had more pressing matters at the time. We get a conflicting account from Fair LDS, which offers a different defense for Joseph Smith's blunder. However, Joseph Smith translated a portion of those plates, not by claiming inspiration, but by comparing characters on the plates to those on his grammar and alphabet of the Egyptian language. The Gale was composed in Kirtland about the time of the translation of the Book of Abraham. Joseph found one of the most prominent characters on the plates to match a character on the second page of characters in the Gale. Both were boat-shaped. The Gale interpretation of this boat-shaped character included everything that William Clayton said Joseph said. Corroborating this is a letter in the New York Herald for May 30th, 1843, from someone who signed pseudonymously as a Gentile. Research shows a Gentile to be a friendly non-Mormon then living in Nauvoo by the name of Sylvester Emmons. The plates are evidently brass and are covered on both sides with hieroglyphics. They were brought up and shown to Joseph Smith. He compared them, in my presence, with his Egyptian alphabet, and they are evidently the same characters. He therefore will be able to decipher them. Which account should we believe? That Joseph Smith lost interest in the plates because he was spiritually inspired to recognize them as fakes, or that he attempted to translate the plates using his Egyptian alphabet? Multiple accounts indicate that Joseph Smith was actively attempting to translate the Kinderhook plates. William Clayton, widely regarded as one of the most reliable contemporaneous sources on Smith, provides a crucial testimony. Clayton's journal entries offer some of the most dependable insights into Smith's actions, yet church apologists frequently downplay these accounts, while using Clayton often for other information on Joseph. The Kinderhook plates, initially thought to be lost, were prominently featured in the official history of the church published by the LDS Church for decades. In 1920, one of these plates resurfaced at the Chicago Historical Society, now the Chicago History Museum. By 1966, this remaining plate was examined at Brigham Young University. The inscriptions on this plate matched the facsimiles published at the time, but it remained uncertain whether this was an original Kinderhook plate or a later reproduction. On May 3, 1843, Brigham Young, who had seen and handled the plates at Joseph Smith's home, outlined the Kinderhook plate in his journal. Despite the uncertainty surrounding their authenticity, whether they were ancient or a modern fabrication, some within the LDS Church continued to believe in their genuineness. The September 1962 issue of the Improvement Era, an official church magazine, featured an article by Welby W. Ricks affirming the plates as authentic. Additionally, in 1979, Apostle Mark E. Peterson authored Those Gold Plates, where he described various ancient cultures with written records on metal plates and included the Kinderhook plates, asserting that most experts agree they are of ancient vintage, despite the controversy and debate. Wilbur Fugate detailed how they had fabricated the plates, engraved them with nonsensical characters, and buried them to be discovered. In 1980, Professor D. Lynn Johnson from Northwestern University's Department of Materials Science and Engineering conducted an analysis of the remaining Kinderhook plate. Utilizing advanced microscopy and scanning technologies, Johnson found that the plate's metal composition and manufacturing tolerances matched those of a 19th century blacksmith's shop. Crucially, he identified traces of nitrogen in the plate's grooves, indicating they had been etched with nitric acid. This finding supported Fugate's 1879 description of the plates. Johnson also noted that the plate exhibited small dents caused by a hexagonally shaped tool. One of these dents had been misinterpreted as a character stroke in the facsimiles published in the History of the Church. If the plate had been a later copy based on those facsimiles, this stroke would have been consistently etched. Johnson concluded that the plate was handled by Smith and confirmed that it was not of ancient origin, but rather a product of 19th century fabrication. In 1981, the official LDS Church magazine admitted the Kinderhook plates were a hoax. The article stated unequivocally that there was no evidence Joseph Smith attempted to translate the plates through divine inspiration, contrasting this with the translation process of the Book of Mormon and the Book of Abraham. There is no evidence that the prophet Joseph Smith ever took up the matter with the Lord, as he did when working with the Book of Mormon and the Book of Abraham. In conclusion, the Kinderhook plates remain a significant embarrassment for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Church tends to avoid the topic, hoping that newer members remain unaware and that those who remember the incident have forgotten the details. Forgeries expose a glaring failure in Joseph Smith's purported gift of discernment. Not only was he deceived by the forgers, but he also attempted to deceive his followers by attempting to validate the plates. This episode casts serious doubt on Smith's claimed prophetic abilities and raises questions about his integrity. Please watch for future videos, and thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for the day.